A Korean Mafia boss hated black women agreed to one blind date. She changed his life forever. Part 2. Absolutely not. Woobin said for the fifth time that morning. My grandmother will interrogate you like you're applying for a government security clearance. Your grandmother already loves me, Eunice countered, chopping vegetables in her restaurant kitchen. It was Sunday morning, prep day, and Woobin had shown up with coffee and concerns. She's been eating my food for months. We're basically best friends. That was reconnaissance. Sunday dinner is psychological warfare disguised as hospitality. Woo Bin, I survived New York restaurant critics. I think I can handle one sweet old Korean lady. She made my last girlfriend cry by asking if she knew how to make kimchi. Did she? That's not the point. It's absolutely the point. Eunice pointed her knife at him. Your grandmother is testing whether people can hang with Korean culture. It's valid. Also, I can make kimchi. Checkmate. Woobin looked pained. She's going to ask about children. I'll tell her we're still figuring out if we like each other, since our first date ended in gunfire and our second date was in your kitchen at midnight. We've had other dates. Taking me to your penthouse to check security systems doesn't count as a date, Woobin. That's called paranoia with romantic lighting. Minjun, prepping nearby, snorted into his cutting board. 3 hours later, Eunice stood outside Halmini's Hanok in Buckshin, wearing a respectful but stunning navy hanbok she'd borrowed from Jian. Woobin looked like he was preparing for execution. Too late to run, he muttered. Way too late. Eunice rang the doorbell. Halmini opened the door wearing a traditional hanbok and a smile that could cut diamonds. Eunice, you came. And you, she looked at Woobin. You wore the tie I bought you. Miracle. The house smelled like heaven. Galbi, japchae, Fijian, and about 15 types of banchan. Eunice's chef brain immediately cataloged every scent. Halmini, your house is beautiful, Eunice said in careful Korean, bowing properly. And you speak Korean. Properly. Not like these American gyopos who forget everything. Halmini shot Woobin a pointed look, as if his girlfriend's language skills were a personal victory.
Come. Sit. Eat.
The dining table was set for 4. Is someone else joining? Woobin asked suspiciously. Mrs. Park from next door. For moral support. Whose moral support? Mine. I need witnesses for when I interrogate your girlfriend. Eunice laughed so hard, she nearly choked. Woobin looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. Mrs. Park arrived moments later, the same elderly woman who visited Eunice's restaurant regularly. They exchanged delighted greetings while Woobin realized he'd been under surveillance for months. You knew, he demanded. Of course I knew, Mrs. Park said, settling down with the comfort of someone at their own home. You're Halmini, and I planned everything. We're very good at this. At what? Manipulation? At matchmaking, Halmini corrected. Now sit.
Eat.
Eunice, tell me about your family. What followed was the most aggressive hospitality Eunice had ever experienced. Halmini asked about her parents, both teachers in Atlanta. Her siblings, one brother, engineer, married with kids. Her education, culinary school, top of her class. Her restaurant finances, surprisingly healthy. Her 5-year plan, expansion, maybe a cookbook, and her thoughts on children, someday, with the right person, maybe 2 or 3. Good. Halmini nodded approvingly. Woobin needs at least 2 children. Someone has to inherit the business. The legitimate business, Woobin interjected quickly. Obviously the legitimate business. What other business? Halmini's innocent expression was Oscar-worthy. Now, Eunice. Can you make kimchi? Eunice smiled. May I use your kitchen, Halmini? 20 minutes later, Eunice emerged with a small bowl of quick-fermented collard green kimchi, her fusion masterpiece that combined Korean technique with Southern ingredients. Gochugaru met pot liquor. Garlic met the ghost of her grandmother's recipes. Halmini took one bite. Her eyes widened. She took another bite. Then another. Then she started crying. Halmiani, Wubin jumped up, panicked. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, you idiot. Halmiani wiped her eyes. It's perfect. It tastes like two worlds becoming family. She looked at Eunice with fierce approval. You're the one. The one what? Eunice asked nervously. The one who finally teaches my grandson that love isn't a business contract. That culture isn't about purity, it's about celebration. That kimchi, she held up the bowl triumphantly, can be anything if you respect the process. Mrs. Park dabbed her eyes. Beautiful. Poetic. When's the wedding? We've known each other for 3 weeks. Wubin protested. Your grandfather proposed after 2 weeks. Halmiani shot back. We were married 43 years. Time is a social construct. After dinner, Halmiani insisted on showing Eunice the storage room where we keep the good alcohol. This was obviously a trap. Wubin tried to intervene, but Mrs. Park physically blocked him. Let them bond, she commanded. In the storage room, surrounded by jars of fermenting vegetables and bottles of expensive liquor, Halmiani dropped the cheerful grandmother act. My grandson is difficult, she said seriously. Closed off. Damaged by loss. His father's death, that terrible woman who betrayed him. He built walls so high even I can barely see over them. I know, Eunice said softly. But with you, I see cracks. I see him laughing, caring, afraid. Halmiani gripped Eunice's hands. Fear means he loves you. He wouldn't be afraid if he didn't. He hasn't said he will. When he's ready. Until then, Halmiani pressed something into Eunice's palm. A jade pendant on a gold chain. Wear this. It was my mother's. For protection. And so everyone knows you're claimed by this family. Eunice's throat tightened. Halmiani, I can't. You can. You will. Now, the old woman's eyes gleamed with mischief. Let's leave you two alone for important conversation. She left, closing the door behind her. A lock clicked. Halmiani, Wubin's muffled voice came from outside. This isn't funny. Very funny. Halmiani called back. You have 30 minutes to tell her how you feel. I'm timing you. Eunice and Wubin stood in the dim storage room, surrounded by kimchi jars and relationship pressure. So, Eunice said, your grandmother just locked us in here. She's diabolical. She gave me her mother's necklace. Wubin's eyes widened. She what? I think your family's adopting me whether you like it or not. He stepped closer, his expression vulnerable in the low light. And if I'm more than like it? If I'm terrified because I can't imagine my life without you anymore and it's only been 3 weeks, and that's insane, but it's true? Eunice's heart hammered. Then I'd say I'm equally terrified. And equally sure. They stood inches apart, the weight of possibility between them. 15 minutes. Halmiani yelled through the door. Clock is ticking. They burst out laughing, and somehow that broke the last barrier. Wubin cupped Eunice's face, and she rose on her toes, and when they finally kissed it tasted like gochugaru and possibility. Outside the door, Halmiani and Mrs. Park high-fived. Phase 2 complete, Halmiani whispered. What's phase 3? Grandchildren. Obviously. Where in the map are you watching from? 2 weeks after Sunday dinner, Eunice's restaurant had gained an unusual regular customer. Every evening at 6 p.m. sharp, Wubin arrived in his ridiculously expensive car, took the corner table, and ordered everything Eunice recommended. He sat there for hours, working on his laptop, definitely not legitimate business emails, while stealing glances at her commanding the kitchen. Her staff had opinions. He's here again, Minjun announced, peering through the kitchen window. Same table. Same intense staring. Same 300% tip. He tips 300%. Jian, who'd stopped by to visit, nearly dropped her wine. Girl, that's either love or money laundering. Maybe both. Eunice flipped a piece of chicken. He's multi-talented. Is he your boyfriend? Asked Sumin, their youngest server, with the wide-eyed enthusiasm of someone who watched too many K-dramas. We're figuring it out. He looks at you like you invented oxygen, Minjun observed. Also, I googled him. There are rumors. Don't Google my boyfriend. HHA. So, he is your boyfriend. Eunice threw a dish towel at him. That night, after closing, Wubin lingered while Eunice cleaned up. He'd abandoned all pretense of work and was just watching her move through her kitchen with the focus of someone memorizing every detail. You're being creepy, she said, wiping down counters. I'm being appreciative. You've been here every night for 2 weeks. Don't you have a criminal empire to run? I'm delegating. He stood, rolling up his sleeves. Teach me. Teach you what? To cook. Something simple. Eunice blinked. You want to learn to cook? You, who thought oregano was a city in Oregon. That was one time. You asked if sauté was French for set on fire. In my defense, things were literally on fire. She laughed, shaking her head.
Fine.
We're making kimchi fried rice. Simple, hard to mess up, and it'll stop you from eating convenience store sadness. She guided him through the steps, chopping kimchi, smaller pieces, Wu Bin. We're cooking, not performing surgery. Heating the pan, that's too hot. You'll burn, yep, you burned it. Cracking eggs, gently. It's an egg, not a business rival. They stood close in the small kitchen, her hands over his, correcting his technique. Every accidental touch sent electricity through both of them. Like this? He tried to fold the egg into the rice. More gently. You're so aggressive. Everything with you is like a corporate takeover. That's literally my job. Your other job is being a normal human who can make dinner without violence. When the dish was finally done, slightly burnt, chaotically seasoned, but edible, Wubin looked ridiculously proud. I made food, he announced. You made a food. Singular. Don't get cocky. They sat together eating his questionable creation, and Eunice watched something soften in his face. This is the first thing that's felt like home in 5 years, he said quietly. Her heart cracked open. The fried rice or the company? Both. Definitely both. She was about to respond when the restaurant door burst open. 3 men walked in, expensive suits, aggressive energy, the unmistakable aura of people accustomed to intimidation. Wu Bin was on his feet instantly, positioned between them and Eunice. We're closed, Eunice called out, gripping a spatula like a weapon because old habits died hard. We're here for an inspection, the lead man said in Korean, smiling like a shark. Making sure this establishment meets neighborhood standards. I passed inspection last month, Eunice replied coldly. I have the certificate. Different kind of inspection. His eyes flicked to Wu Bin. Your boyfriend owes our boss money. Territory fees. Protection fees. Breathing fees. Kong sent you. Wu Bin said flatly. Smart boy. He says to tell you. Pay up, or pretty things get broken. The man's gaze landed on Eunice. Very pretty things. The temperature dropped. Wu Bin moved so fast Eunice barely saw it. One moment the man was smiling. The next he was slammed against the wall, Wu Bin's forearm across his throat, all pretense of civilization gone. You don't look at her. You don't think about her. You don't breathe in her direction. His voice was death incarnate. Tell Kong if he sends anyone near this restaurant again, I'll send them back in pieces. Starting with you. The other 2 men reached for weapons, but suddenly Minjun emerged from the kitchen wielding a meat cleaver, and Dae-young, the scarred gangster who loved Eunice's mac and cheese, materialized from the shadows outside. Boss, Dae-young said cheerfully. Need help taking out the trash? The Kang's men retreated, but not before the leader spat. This isn't over. After they left, Eunice leaned against the counter, processing what she'd just witnessed. Wu Bin transformed. Not the awkward man learning to cook, but something cold and lethal. So, she said carefully. That was the crime boss thing. Eunice, no, I get it. I do. But, she looked at him directly. You need to tell me everything. All of it. Because I can't do this halfway. Either I'm in your world, mess and all, or I'm not. Wu Bin's jaw clenched. My world is dangerous. And mine has health inspectors and racist Yelp reviews. Everything's dangerous. She crossed to him, taking his hand. I'm not some delicate flower you need to protect. I'm a woman who hit a gangster with Tupperware. Give me some credit. You hit him with Tupperware because you're insane. And you're dating me anyway because you're insane. She squeezed his hand. Talk to me.
So he did.
He told her about the territories, the alliances, the enemies like Kong who wanted what he'd built. He told her about the legitimate businesses that funded the illegitimate ones, the politicians he paid, the violence he'd authorized. He expected her to leave. Instead, she kissed him. What was that for? He asked, stunned. For trusting me with the truth. She pulled back, serious. But Wu Bin, if we're doing this, really doing this, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't lie to protect me. Don't hide danger, because you think I can't handle it. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Let me choose with my eyes open. I promise. They kissed again, deeper this time, weeks of tension and fear and wanting finally breaking through. His hands tangled in her locks, her fingers clutched his shirt, and the world narrowed to just this. Two people choosing each other despite every logical reason not to. Minjun walked in, saw them, and promptly dropped an entire tray of dishes. The crash echoed like a bomb. They sprang apart. Minjun stood frozen, surrounded by shattered plates. I didn't see anything, he squeaked. I'm blind. Kitchen accident. Carry on. He backed away slowly, still holding the empty tray. Eunice burst out laughing. Your timing is truly spectacular. It's a gift, Minjun called from the kitchen. A terrible, terrible gift. Wu Bin pulled her close again, smiling against her hair. Your staff is going to be insufferable about this. Oh, they already are. Sumin has a betting pool on when you'll propose. What's her guess? 3 months. Too slow, Wu Bin murmured. Eunice's heart stuttered. What? But he just kissed her forehead and said, Come on, let's get you home. I'm assigning security to the restaurant. Wu Bin, non-negotiable. Kong made a threat. I'm responding. His expression went cold again. He wants to play games with what's mine? Let's play. The text from Halmiani came at 7 a.m. on a Wednesday, bringing book club to restaurant today. 1 p.m. Make extra japchae. Also, your boyfriend should come. For moral support. Eunice forwarded it to Wu Bin with a caption, Your grandmother is terrorizing me. His response, That's not a book club. That's a tactical strike team. I'll be there. You don't have to. If I leave you alone with them, they'll have us married by dessert. I'm coming. At 12:55 p.m., 5 elderly Korean women descended upon Eunice's restaurant like a well-dressed SWAT team. Halmiani led the formation, followed by Mrs. Park and 3 others Eunice vaguely recognized from the neighborhood. This is Mrs. Kim, Mrs. Lee, and Mrs. Choi number 2. Halmiani introduced them with military efficiency. We're the book club. What book are you reading? Eunice asked innocently. The book of Wu Bin's romantic incompetence, Mrs. Park said. It's very long. Many chapters. The Ajumma settled at the largest table, refusing menus. We'll have everything, Halmiani announced. We need to properly evaluate your cooking for when you marry my grandson. We're not. Yet. You're not married yet. Halmiani waved dismissively. Details. Wu Bin arrived at 1:15 p.m., looking like he was walking into a hostage negotiation. The Ajummas erupted into coordinated action. Sit. Halmiani commanded. He sat. You look thin, Mrs. Kim observed. Is she feeding you? I feed myself. Wrong answer, Mrs. Lee interjected. A good woman feeds her man. A good man appreciates it. Are you appreciating? Yes, very much. He tips 300%. Mrs. Park offered helpfully. That's appreciation or guilt. It's appreciation. Wu Bin looked desperately at Eunice, who was trying not to laugh while plating their food. And respect. And a look, I really like her cooking, okay? Like is weak. Mrs. Choi number 2 sniffed. My husband said my cooking was his reason for living. That's romance. Your husband also said that about golf and whiskey, Mrs. Park pointed out. He had many reasons for living. He was complex. Eunice brought out the first wave of dishes. The Ajumas ate with a serious concentration of judges at a cooking competition. Every bite was analyzed. Every flavor dissected. The gochujang ratio is perfect, Halmiani pronounced. The sesame oil is high quality, Mrs. Kim agreed. But is she financially stable? Mrs. Lee pivoted without warning. Restaurant business is difficult. Very stable, Eunice answered, sitting down because apparently this was happening. I own the building. No debt. Profit margins are healthy. The Ajumas nodded approvingly, taking notes on actual notepads they'd produced from their handbags. Children? Mrs. Choi number 2 asked. Do you want them? Eventually. With the right person. Maybe 2 or 3. More approving nods. Can you handle difficult mother-in-law? Mrs. Park asked. His mother is dead, Eunice said carefully. I'm talking about Halmiani. She's basically his mother. Very opinionated. Very involved. I can handle it, Eunice said, making eye contact with Halmiani. I respect strong women who say what they think. Halmiani's eyes got suspiciously shiny. Are you good in bed? Mrs. Lee asked casually. Wu Bin choked on his water. Halmiani. What? It's important. Physical compatibility matters. We're not discussing this. Your grandfather and I had excellent physical compatibility. That's why you exist. I'm begging you to stop talking. He's very repressed, Mrs. Park observed to Eunice. Can you work with that? Eunice was crying with laughter. I think we're managing fine, thank you. Fine is also weak, Mrs. Choi number 2 said. Should be excellent or mind-blowing. How is this a book club? Wu Bin demanded. We read 50 books about relationships, Mrs. Kim said defensively. We're experts now. After the interrogation, disguised as lunch, ended, Halmiani pulled Wu Bin aside while the other Ajumas kept Eunice occupied with increasingly personal questions. You're going to lose her if you don't commit, Halmiani said quietly. We've been together for 3 weeks. Time is irrelevant. Your grandfather knew in 3 days. I knew in 1. She poked his chest. You already know. You're just scared. I'm not scared. You're terrified. Of losing her like you lost your father. Like you lost that terrible woman who betrayed you. But fear is not strategy, Wu Bin. Fear is just cowardice wearing a suit. He had no response to that. That evening, Wu Bin picked Eunice up in his car, the modest one, not the screaming wealth one, and drove to the Han River. He'd arranged everything. A private boat, sunset timing, champagne, the full romantic production. Eunice took one look at the setup and burst out laughing. You Googled romantic date ideas, didn't you? I know maybe. He ran a hand through his hair. Was it too much? It's perfect. It's also hilariously obvious that you panic researched this. She stepped onto the boat, accepting champagne. But I love that you tried. They sat as the boat drifted along the Han, the Seoul skyline glittering like scattered stars. For a while, they just existed in comfortable silence. I'm terrified, Wu Bin said finally. Of boats? Because that's new. Of this. Us. Of how much He stopped struggling. Every person I've loved has either died or betrayed me. And now you're here, and you're perfect, and I'm waiting for the universe to take you away too. Eunice set down her glass, taking his hands. I'm scared too. My ex destroyed my career, my reputation, my trust. Coming to Korea was running away. Opening the restaurant was proving I wasn't broken. And then you showed up emotionally constipated, criminally employed, and somehow exactly what I didn't know I needed. I'm bringing danger into your life, and I'm bringing chaos into yours. We're even. She squeezed his hands. But Wu Bin, fear is just love that hasn't learned to be brave yet. So, let's be brave. Together. He kissed her then, soft and desperate, and full of everything he couldn't say yet. When they broke apart, he whispered in Korean, "You're everything I didn't know I was missing." "I know," she whispered back. "You're everything I didn't know I deserved." They kissed again, deeper, champagne forgotten, the city lights blurring into insignificance. Miles away, in a dark office, Kong Min-ho watched footage of them on the boat. His associate stood nearby, waiting. "The woman is the weakness," Kong said slowly.
Take her.
"When?"
Soon.
"Let them feel safe first. Let them believe love conquers all." His smile was cruel. "Then we'll teach them that love just makes you vulnerable." Back on the Han, Eunice shivered despite the warm night. "You okay?" Wu Bin asked.
Yeah.
"Just weird feeling. Like someone walked over my grave." He pulled her closer. "Nothing's going to happen to you. I promise." She believed him. She shouldn't have. Where in the world are you watching from? Don't forget to subscribe. The next 3 weeks were the happiest Wu Bin had been in his entire adult life, which should have been his first warning that the universe was plotting something terrible. He and Eunice fell into a rhythm that felt dangerously close to domestic bliss. She taught him to cook, actual cooking, not assemble expensive takeout cooking. He taught her self-defense, which went about as well as expected. "You can't fight everyone with Tupperware," he said, demonstrating a wrist release technique in his penthouse gym. "I've had a 100% success rate so far." "You've hit one person with Tupperware." Undefeated champion. She tried the wrist release, failed spectacularly, and ended up tangled in his arms instead. "I think I did it wrong." Definitely wrong. But he wasn't letting go. "Try again." Or, she kissed him, "We could skip the violence lesson and move to the making out portion of the evening." "That's not on the schedule. Make an appointment then, Mr. Organized Crime." He kissed her back, schedule forgotten. Eunice started meeting more of his world. His legitimate business partners were shocked he was dating. Wu Bin has a girlfriend? With emotions? Is this a kidnapping situation? And his criminal associates were outright terrified. Dae-young, the soft-hearted gangster, had completely adopted Eunice as his personal responsibility. "Boss, with all respect, she walks to the market alone," he reported during a meeting, sounding personally offended. "Alone. In broad daylight. Without security. She's independent." Wu Bin started.
She's reckless.
"Last week she yelled at a taxi driver for cutting her off. The taxi driver apologized."
To her.
"A taxi driver apologizing is against nature." "I like her spirit," Min-soo, another lieutenant, offered. "She brought homemade lunch to the office last week. Called us Wu Bin's emotionally constipated work family. The japchae was excellent. She's too good for this world," Dae-young said seriously. "We must protect her. I'm handling her security. Badly. She doesn't even know we're following her." That's the point of covert security. What Wu Bin didn't tell his crew was that Eunice had absolutely noticed the security detail. She'd just chosen to ignore them because arguing with Wu Bin about his paranoia was exhausting. Though lately, she'd been noticing other people following her too. Different cars. Different faces. She told herself it was paranoia, that Wu Bin's world was making her jumpy. She should have trusted her instincts. One evening, Halmini arrived at the restaurant unannounced, carrying a small velvet box. "For you," she said, pressing it into Eunice's hands. Inside was a simple gold necklace with a jade pendant, the family heirloom from weeks ago, now properly set. Halmione, I can't. You already are. The old woman's eyes were fierce. You're already family. This just makes it official. Wear it. Always. You're making me cry in my own restaurant.
Good.
Tears mean you understand the weight. Halmione gripped her hands. Now make it official before I die of old age waiting for my great-grandchildren. We've been dating for 5 weeks. And your generation wastes so much time. My generation saw someone we liked, married them immediately, and figured out compatibility later.
She paused.
Granted, that's why divorce was invented, but still, faster process. That night, after closing, Wubin found Eunice in her apartment. The small place in Itaewon she kept even though she spent most nights at his penthouse. Your grandmother gave me her necklace, she said, showing him. His expression went soft. She really loves you. She really wants grandchildren. That too. He sat beside her on the couch. Eunice, I need to tell you something. Her heart jumped. If this is a breakup speech, I'm keeping the necklace and half your kitchen equipment. It's not. He took her hands, suddenly nervous. This man who faced down gang bosses and politicians was nervous talking to her. I'm in love with you. The words came out in Korean, heavy with meaning, and Eunice's entire world tilted. You can't just, in Korean, that's cheating. I love you, he repeated in English. I'm completely, terrifyingly in love with you. You walk into rooms, and my whole day gets better. You laugh at my terrible jokes. You make my sterile penthouse feel like home. You hit gangsters with Tupperware and teach me to cook, and you're everything I didn't know I needed. Eunice was definitely crying now. I'm already in love with you. You emotionally constipated idiot. I fell in love when you showed up at Sunday dinner looking terrified. When you learned to make kimchi fried rice just to make me smile. When you told me the truth about your life instead of lying to protect me. Really? Really? Though your timing is terrible. I'm wearing sweatpants and I haven't washed my hair in 2 days. You're perfect. They kissed, soft and slow and full of promises neither of them said out loud yet. When they finally moved to the bedroom, it was with the certainty of people who'd already decided on forever, even if they hadn't said the words yet. Later, wrapped in sheets and contentment, Eunice traced patterns on his chest. Move in with me, she said. You're already at my place every night. No, I mean really move in. Combine our stuff. Get rid of your emotionally distant bachelor furniture. Let me bring color and chaos and actual food into your space. On one condition. What? Marry me. Eunice froze. What?
Not now.
Not this second. But soon. When we're ready. When the world is safer. He tilted her chin up. Marry me, Eunice Washington. Make Halmione stop threatening me. Make my kitchen smell like you're cooking every day. Make me the luckiest criminal in Seoul. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is that a yes? That's a ask me again when you're not naked, and I'm not crying. But she was smiling. Also, yes. Obviously, yes. You ridiculous man. They fell asleep tangled together, planning futures and arguing about furniture. Neither noticed the car parked across the street, watching, waiting. The next morning, Eunice kissed Wubin goodbye and headed to the Gwangjang market alone. She needed ingredients for the weekend menu, and the morning market had the freshest everything. I'm coming with you, Wubin said, already reaching for his jacket. You have that meeting with the Incheon people. I'll reschedule. Wubin, I'm going to the market, not a war zone. I'll be fine. She kissed him again. Dae-young is probably already following me anyway.
He was.
Plus 2 other guards Eunice pretended not to notice. The market was crowded, vibrant, full of ajumas selling everything from vegetables to vintage clothes. Eunice moved through the stalls, haggling in broken Korean, laughing with the vendors who'd come to know her. She was examining radishes when she felt it. the prickling awareness of being watched. Not by Dae-young's protective stalking, but something else. Something predatory. She turned, scanning the crowd. Nothing obvious. She shook it off, paid for her radishes, and moved to the next stall. The hand that grabbed her came from behind, clamping over her mouth before she could scream. A cloth pressed to her face. Chemicals smell, world tilting, and Eunice's last conscious thought was that Woobin was going to be so insufferable about being right. Then everything went black. Her phone clattered to the market floor, screen cracking. A video call to Woobin, accidentally triggered, connected to nothing but empty air and the sound of chaos. Dae-young found it 3 minutes later. By then, Eunice was already gone. Eunice woke up with a headache that felt like her skull was hosting a death metal concert, tied to a chair in what could only be described as warehouse chic. Villain edition. Concrete floor. Flickering fluorescent lights. Suspicious stains she really didn't want to examine. And the piece de resistance. Metal chairs that looked like they'd been purchased from Kidnapping Supplies R Us. Really? She said out loud, testing her bindings. A warehouse? Did you guys get your villain playbook from Netflix? Because this is so unoriginal. 2 guards stood by the door, looking confused that their hostage was critiquing the decor. Where's the creativity? Eunice continued, because apparently her defense mechanism was aggressive commentary. Why not an abandoned amusement park? A creepy mansion? Even a storage unit would be more interesting. This is just lazy. Shut up, one guard said in Korean. Ah, he speaks. Tell me, did you have to submit a resume for this job? Was ability to stand menacingly a required skill? What's the benefits package like? Do you get dental? The guard looked at his partner. Is she in shock? I think she's just American, the other replied. Eunice tested the ropes again. Tight, but not impossible. She'd watched enough action movies and survived enough restaurant kitchen disasters to know basic problem solving. Also, she was wearing the jade necklace under her shirt, and somehow that made her feel braver. Can I get some water? She asked.
No.
What about snacks? You guys have terrible hospitality ratings. I'm definitely leaving a 1-star Yelp review for this kidnapping experience. The door opened, and Kong Min-ho walked in with the swagger of a man who thought he was terrifying. He was dressed in an expensive suit that couldn't quite hide the insecurity underneath. Eunice Washington, he said in English, clearly having practiced. Welcome. Thanks, I hate it. The amenities are terrible and your staff is undertrained. Kong blinked, thrown off his script. You should be afraid. Oh, I'm terrified. I'm just also aware that showing fear to bullies only encourages them. So instead, I'm going with aggressive criticism. Your shoes are fake Gucci, by the way. One of the guards snorted before catching himself. Kang's face flushed. You think this is funny? I think you're trying really hard to be intimidating and it's coming across more middle management having a bad day than criminal mastermind. Maybe work on your presence? Take an improv class. I could kill you. But you won't, because then you lose leverage over Woobin. That's Villain 101. You clearly need me alive, or this whole production is pointless. Eunice leaned back as much as the ropes allowed. So, what's the plan? Ransom call? Dramatic reveal? Monologue about your evil scheme? Kong pulled out his phone, calling Woobin on speaker. He answered before the first ring finished. Where is she? Not a question. A demand that could cut steel. I have a girlfriend, Kong said smugly. If you want her back, don't negotiate with this discount villain. Eunice yelled. His shoes are fake Gucci, and he kidnaps people in warehouses. It's embarrassing, Eunice. Woobin's voice cracked with relief and fear. Are you hurt? Only my sense of aesthetics. This warehouse is a travesty. I'm going to kill them, Woobin said, and the cold certainty in his voice made even Kong nervous. Every single one of them. Slowly. Now that's villain energy, Eunice called out approvingly. See the difference, Kong? That's how you threaten people. Conviction. Specificity. He's going to kill you slowly. Details matter. Kong hit her across the face. The warehouse went silent. Eunice tasted blood, but she smiled anyway, because that slap meant she was winning the psychological game. You just made a mistake, Wu Bin said quietly. You should have killed me when you had the chance. Because now I'm going to make you suffer before you die. Kong ended the call, breathing hard. Tie her up tighter. No food. No water. What about bathroom breaks? Eunice asked. Because I had coffee this morning and biology is inevitable. After Kong left, Eunice went to work. The guards were bored, understaffed, and clearly not expecting a chef from Atlanta to be their biggest problem. She started with conversation. So, how long have you guys worked for Discount Gucci? Silence. I'm just saying, Wu Bin pays better. I've seen his operation. Health insurance, retirement plans, and his guys get to eat at my restaurant for free. I make excellent fried chicken. One guard's stomach growled audibly. You're hungry. See, this is what I mean about poor management. When's the last time you ate? This morning, the younger guard admitted. Breakfast is the most important meal. What did you have? Convenience store kimbap. Tragic. I could teach you to make proper breakfast. Fluffy eggs, crispy bacon, or Korean pancakes if you prefer. Kimchi jjigae that'll cure any hangover. She kept talking, kept them engaged, kept them seeing her as a person instead of a hostage. Meanwhile, her fingers worked at the ropes. The chair she was tied to had a rough edge on one leg. If she could just shift enough. Hours passed. Eunice kept up the commentary, partly to annoy her captors and partly to stay sane. You know what this warehouse needs? Plants. Some natural light. Maybe a throw rug. Really brighten up the whole criminal hideout aesthetic. Shut up, the older guard finally snapped. Make me. Oh wait, you can't, because then you can't guard someone who's unconscious.
Check pick.
That's checkmate plus a pickle. I just invented it. The younger guard was definitely fighting a smile. Meanwhile, across Seoul, Halmiani burst into Wu Bin's penthouse where he was coordinating the rescue operation with his entire crew. She was flanked by Mrs. Park and the book club ajumas, all wearing matching determined expressions. What are you? Wu Bin started. Halmiani slapped him.
Hard. Ow.
Halmiani, stop crying and go get your woman. She pointed at him imperiously. My future granddaughter-in-law is being held by that second-rate gangster, and you're here making plans? We need strategy. You need action. Mrs. Park interjected. My late husband was in the military. I know tactics. You're wasting time. With all respect, Halmiani, Mrs. Kim's nephew works in surveillance. Mrs. Lee offered. He can track phones. Mrs. Choi number two's son is a prosecutor, added Mrs. Kim. He owes us a favor. Wu Bin stared at the Ajuma tactical unit that had assembled in his living room. You're all insane. We're invested, Halmiani corrected. Eunice is family. Family means we burn down the world, if necessary. Now stop planning and start destroying. That's what you're good at. She wasn't wrong. Back in the warehouse, Eunice had finally worked one hand partially free when Kong returned. Your boyfriend has 6 hours to deliver 20 billion won and withdraw from Busan territory, he announced.
Or you die.
20 billion? Wow, I'm flattered. That's like a lot of respect, actually. I'm worth 20 billion won.
She paused.
What's that in dollars? About 15 million. Okay, still flattered, but slightly less so. Anyway, he's not going to pay you. He will. He's going to kill you. There's a difference. He's probably mobilizing right now. Probably very angry. Definitely going to make you regret ever learning my name. Eunice smiled. If I were you, I'd run.
Like now.
Head start before the murder starts. Kong backhanded her again. Eunice spat blood and laughed. Is that all you've got? I've gotten worse injuries from splattered fryer oil. You hit like a disappointed substitute teacher. Keep talking, Kong snarled. See what happens. What's going to happen is Wu Bin is going to tear through this warehouse like an angry tornado, and you're going to die badly. I've seen him protective. It's actually kind of hot. You should be honored. You're going to die because someone loves me that much. She meant every word. And somewhere in Seoul, Wu Bin was proving her right, mobilizing every resource he had for war. Don't forget to subscribe. State where you are watching from. Wu Bin arrived at the warehouse with 30 men, enough firepower to start a small war, and the kind of cold fury that made grown men reconsider their life choices. He also had Halmiani in the car, which was somehow more terrifying than the guns. You can't be here, he'd argued. My future granddaughter-in-law is in there. I'm supervising. She'd brought her good handbag. Also, I made kimbap for afterward. She'll be hungry. Inside the warehouse, Eunice had managed to free one hand and was actively documenting her kidnapping experience on a piece of paper she'd found. Warehouse, 2 out of 10. Lighting, terrible. Guards, undertrained. Main villain, compensating for something. Overall kidnapping experience, would not recommend. What are you doing? The younger guard asked. Leaving a review. If I die, someone should know this was a poorly executed operation. That's when the shooting started. Eunice hit the floor, well, hit it as much as someone tied to a chair could, as the warehouse exploded into chaos.
Gunfire. Shouting.
The sounds of Wu Bin's crew systematically dismantling Kang's operation. The door burst open and there he was, suit jacket discarded, gun in hand, eyes scanning the warehouse with lethal precision until they landed on her. Oh good, you brought the whole squad. Eunice called out cheerfully, still tied to the chair. Very dramatic. I appreciate the effort. Are you critiquing your rescue? Wu Bin crossed to her, already cutting her ropes. Someone knocked out that guy with a folding chair. She pointed to an unconscious guard. That's creative violence. I'm noting it for future reference. He pulled her up, checking her face where Kong had hit her. His expression went absolutely murderous. I'm fine. He hit you.
Twice.
But I called his shoes fake Gucci and his warehouse unoriginal, so I feel like I won the psychological warfare. Despite everything, the violence, the fear, the chaos, Wu Bin laughed. Then kissed her, hard and desperate and relieved. You're insane, he muttered against her mouth. And you mobilized an army for me. We're even. Kong tried to run. Got maybe 10 feet before Dae-young clotheslined him with the efficiency of someone who took his job very seriously. Nobody hits the boss's girlfriend, Dae-young announced. Especially not someone wearing fake designer shoes. How does everyone know about the shoes? Kong wheezed. Eunice has been providing commentary for the past 6 hours, the younger guard offered. It was very informative. Wu Bin approached Kong with a kind of calm that preceded extreme violence. You threatened her. Put your hands on her. Made her afraid. I wasn't that afraid. Eunice started. Extremely afraid, Wu Bin corrected, not breaking eye contact with Kong. Terrified. Traumatized. This requires significant retaliation. I'm going to kill you, Kong spat. No, said a voice from the warehouse entrance. You're going to prison. Everyone turned. Halmiani stood there with Mrs. Park, Mrs. Choi number 2, and, surprisingly, 3 police officers. Halmiani,
Wu Bin starret.
You think you're the only one with connections? She smiled sweetly. Mrs. Choi's son is a prosecutor. Very good prosecutor. Already has warrant for Kong Minho's arrest. Murder, trafficking, tax evasion. Tax evasion? Kong looked personally offended. Everyone goes down for taxes eventually, Mrs. Park said wisely. Should have hired better accountant. The police moved in, reading Kong his rights while he sputtered protests. Wu Bin's crew conveniently disappeared. Legitimate businessman had nothing to do with this rescue. Officer just happened to be in neighborhood. Halmiani rushed to Eunice, pulling her into a fierce hug. You're hurt. Just bruises. Your grandson has excellent timing. He better. I taught him everything. She produced Tupperware from her massive handbag. I brought kimbap and kimchi and also documentation for wedding venue because we're not wasting any more time. Halmiani,
What?
she was kidnapped. This is sign from universe to stop being slow. She turned to Eunice. You still want to marry my emotionally constipated grandson? More than anything.
Good.
Next month. I'm planning everything. Mrs. Park pulled out an actual wedding planning binder from her purse. Already started. June is nice. Not too hot. This is insane. Wu Bin said weakly. This is efficient. Mrs. Choi number 2 corrected. My son already filed the paperwork for Kong. Prosecutors move fast when a Jumma is asked nicely. You threatened him, didn't you? Eunice asked. Threatening is such a harsh word. I reminded him that I know his mother and his grandmother, and I have photos from his childhood I could share with his colleagues. Blackmail. You blackmailed a prosecutor. Asterisk strategic persuasion star. Later, at Wu Bin's penthouse, now truly home with Eunice's things mixed with his, they collapsed onto the couch. She was bruised, exhausted, and somehow still making jokes. So that was terrifying, she admitted finally, the bravado cracking. He pulled her close. I thought I lost you. When I saw your phone on the ground, the cracked screen, his voice broke. I can't lose you. You won't. I'm too stubborn. Also, your grandmother would kill me if I died before giving her great-grandchildren. About that, Wu Bin shifted, pulling a small box from his pocket. You did not have an engagement ring on you during a warehouse rescue. I've been carrying it for a week, waiting for the right moment. He opened it, simple diamond, elegant, perfect. This wasn't the right moment, but I can't wait anymore. Marry me, Eunice.
For real this time.
Not someday.
Soon.
Before my grandmother plans the entire wedding without asking us. Too late. Halmiani called from the kitchen, where she'd apparently let herself in. June 15th. I booked the venue. Halmiani, privacy. I'm making dinner. You need vegetables. Eunice laughed so hard she cried, then kissed him through the tears.
Yes.
Obviously, yes. I'll marry you and your grandmother and the Ajama Tactical Unit and Daeyoung and this whole chaotic mess. Even Minyoon. Especially Minjun. Someone has to run my restaurant when I'm on my honeymoon. They kissed properly then, sealing promises and futures and the kind of love that survived warehouses, fake Gucci, and aggressive Korean grandmothers. From the kitchen, Halmiani smiled into her kimchi jjigae. Mrs. Park, also somehow in the kitchen now, high-fived her. Phase complete. Now we start planning nursery. One catastrophe at a time, please. Outside, Seoul glittered with possibility. Somewhere, prosecutors were building cases. Enemies were regrouping. Threats still existed. But inside, a Korean crime boss and an American chef were planning a wedding, arguing about whether to serve soul food or traditional Korean cuisine. Answer. Both, obviously, and learning that love, messy, chaotic, dangerous love, was worth every risk. Eunice looked at the jade necklace still around her neck, then at Wu Bin, then at Halmiani aggressively cooking vegetables in their kitchen. Your family is insane, she said. Our family, Wu Bin corrected. Our beautiful, insane, Tupperware-wielding family. And honestly, she wouldn't change a thing. If you believe love is worth fighting for, even when it involves gangsters, kidnapping, and aggressive Korean grandmothers, drop a comment saying Team Eunice and hit subscribe. Because people like Kong hate when women like Eunice win. Don't let the bullies win.
Ever.